Hey, it's Onesto, and today I'm introducing you to a very big and beautiful plugin from Spitfire Audio. This is Polaris. Spitfire describes Polaris as an orchestral synthesizer. Great, so what does that mean? Well, it's kind of like a string orchestra imitating classic synth sounds. And after this video, you'll see that this plugin can be as much a synth as it is an orchestra, and that's a big reason why I think you're gonna love this. There's over 400 presets in here, so let's scratch the surface and hear some of them. Inside there's two modes. You have standard and synth mode. I'll talk more about that in detail later, but let's hear what you can expect from Polaris. Okay, these presets are seriously some of the most beautiful ever. If you want to learn more about Polaris, just click the link down below. Alright, let's dive a little deeper and talk about the two modes inside Polaris. Inside Polaris is standard mode, the more straightforward and simpler side of Polaris, and then there's synth mode, where you can go more in depth and design to your ear's content. Let's start with standard mode. Compared to synth mode, it's a lot cleaner and straightforward. Pretty much what you do is click the preset menu, select the library, and then start exploring. One of my favorite categories is synth hardware. Then you can select between some different sounds. For example, we can browse all kinds of vintage synths here like the CS80, Prophet T8, Jupiter 8, Prophet 5. Whether you're playing in standard or synth mode, you're going to have these macro sliders and dials here that are really easy to use. The first slider controls the level of the sound. The next slider controls the dynamics of the sound, which is really useful when using like a string or something more orchestral. And this macro here, if you click the center, you can choose a parameter to set or automate. Let's jump into the effects now by clicking this effects button. Depending on the sound, you'll get to dial in a few parameters. With this preset, we can adjust the noise, release, and reverb. What I really want to bring up were the 54 noise sources in here. You know you're a producer nerd when you're geeking out over noise sources, but oh well. The reverb models here are really good too. They're modeled after vintage gear or famous reverbs from music history, so get ready to get lost in some insane tales. And then let's switch over to the strings all-in-one preset. Once again, check out all the different articulations you can explore. Anyways, I want to show you real quick the signal mixer panel where you can blend between 11 different signals, which really opens up the timbre and tonal possibilities. Now it's time for the granulator. This is in both standard and synth mode. I think it's the first time the Spitfire audio has included a granulator, and I'm so happy they did. I love combining this with strings. I think it helps things sound so complex and interesting. And the best part is that the effect is doing all the work. Now let's move on to synth mode. This is where both of the presets are, and this is also where a lot of the big sound design moves can happen. If you're new to Spitfire, this may overwhelm you, but trust me, it's a lot simpler than it looks. This is Spitfire Audio's eDNA engine, which is pretty much a really advanced and flexible sampler. Here you can blend between two different samples in layer A on the left and layer B on the right. If you click one of these sample names, you can browse all kinds of samples in the sample library. And this is kind of what you're paying all that money for. The ways they've been recorded, manipulated, resampled. It takes a tremendous amount of work, gear, and experience, and all you have to do is just click this and you get instant access to all of it. In this sampler, you can add in, volume, pitch, filter modulation. There's a high and low pass filter, an ADSR envelope in here, of course. There's glide, bend, and the clone feature. And the clone feature is pretty fun to use. You can stack a voice. Typically, I add an octave above or below to get a bigger sound. And at the bottom is a crossfader that lets you blend between both sounds. It's assigned to the modulation wheel on your MIDI keyboard. You'll probably use this all the time, because I sure do. You can also add in some LFO modulation to give you some movement between both layers. Okay, let's pause because that was a lot. And there's still more to cover. If you got lost, that's okay. Just know that the sampler engine lets you layer up to 2 sound sources, and there's a bunch of controls here that'll help you go wild with sound design. The next tab in here is your effects tab. There's a ridiculous amount of effects in here, so many that I gotta just breeze through them. It feels like a shame, so sorry about that. Something unique is that the effects on layer A is different than layer B for whatever reason. And I thought this would be really limiting, but it kind of made me just push my creativity, which is fine by me. There's also an aux effects and even more effects on the master effects. And here you'll also find that granulator that I showed you in standard mode. The last thing I gotta show you is a gate sequencer. The gate sequencer is one of those features I didn't think I needed in this plugin. When used subtly, it gives your sound that tiniest bit of movement and texture. You can also go overboard with it to give your sounds a ton of movement. Sound design stuff. Now, if you want to check out another plugin instrument that'll pair nicely with Polaris, check out the moody sounds of Vespertone from Teletone Audio. You can learn more about that by clicking the video here. Thanks for watching. Please like this video so other music makers can find it. Later.